What's up, everybody? This is Henry Fleischer here from the Cannabis Dispatch, also the CBD Business Networking group on Facebook, and I have a very special guest today. I have Christina DiArcangelo of Affinity Bio Partners. That's correct, right?
Affinity Bio Partners. It's
Yes.
Christina DiArcangelo, like the archangel.
Yeah, sorry, my bad about that. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about what Affinity Bio Partners is about.
So Affinity Bio Partners is a global clinical research organization, otherwise known as a CRO from an acronym standpoint. I personally have been in the biotech, pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, medical device industries for 24 years globally. I've worked on 25 FDA-approved drugs in my career. The last 5, I've been in the medical cannabis and CBD global space, working in moving forward compounds into clinical trials through Affinity Bio Partners. So what we do at Affinity Bio Partners is that we design clinical studies on behalf of our clients, we operationalize, and then we deliver the data through one of our sister companies, which is called Spectral Analytics Precision Tele-Monitoring. That is where the technology sits that Affinity Bio Partners utilizes to run their studies. So the electronic data capture, so the information that you collect within a protocol, it's against a schedule of assessments. So that's like the game plan for the protocol for the doctors. It tells the doctors and the staff what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it. So if they're pulling blood or doing vitals or things like that, I design all of that for them. And then I train them and say, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. But electronically, I build out a system to capture the data per those visits as designed against a protocol. Then the other thing we do is we design a lot of times electronic patient reported outcomes, which is an ePro. It's questionnaires that you ask patients who are participating in your study, how they're feeling. Sometimes they're regulated through companies where we have to license those questionnaires and then build it in the technology. Other times I create the questionnaires. Like for example, for Spectral, we had formulated an ADHD patch. We've also formulated an immune boost patch that's transdermal, lasts for 24 hours. The immune boost is for palliative care. So COVID long haulers, cancer patients, HIV, autoimmune patients, all of those patients that have palliative issues, chronic issues, anxiety, sleep, pain, can't eat, all those things scientifically and medically are considered palliative. So we designed those patches and we released our ePro to the patients that were participating in our observational study. So companies, CBD companies, for example, they can do the same thing. So a lot of times what happens in the industry is, you see this, Henry, all these ads, my CBD is better than yours, this CBD does this, nano this, blah, blah, emulsify that, this, that, the other, drink the water, put the chapstick on, get in the bath, eat the ice cream, all these crazy things. So that's not valid science. You know, like, I don't know what the hell that is, sales puffery, I guess. And so what we could do for companies that have a CBD line is that we could actually design electronic patient reported outcome studies for them, where we're just doing a questionnaire for the patients that buy the product. We ask them certain things, they respond, the client gets the data, we look at the data, because remember, you have a clinical researcher on your team who can tell you, hey, look, do you see these trends? This is helping with digestive issues or whatever it is, right? And then you're learning about your product, which then means that you may decide later on, hey, I want to do a real study, that I get approval through an institutional review board to study my product for XYZ. The problem in our industry is that there's not enough research. There's all this anecdotal evidence. Well, I took this during COVID and it helped me. Well, did it really help you? Or was it a placebo effect? If I gave you water and I gave you water that had CBD in it, would you be able to tell the difference? Probably not. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be cocky, but listen, if we want this to be recognized by the authorities as a treatment, as a medicine, we have to do studies. We can't continue to do things and make claims that the products work for XYZ, because guess what? The FDA has bots. They'll find you, just like I have. I have bots too.
Oh, yeah.
I can find anybody.
Yeah, because like I know one thing too, though, is like there's certain industries that don't want the research on the CBD. They feel threatened by it.
Of course, I'm up against it every day, right? Because I was a
Yeah.
traditional person who, in some respects, people view as gone rogue. But no, I did it with intention. I figured out that there were medicinal values as it related to CBD and cannabis. I started looking at the research only because I happened to be speaking at a Relay for Life about my experience of taking care of my dad when he was dying from cancer, and then eventually opening up my nonprofit, Affinity Patient Advocacy, in 15 while he was dying. So I was this keynote. Somebody on the West Coast heard my speech, reached out to me because my name is not like Jones or Smith, right? So they typed my name in and saw that I was a clinical researcher, that I have FDA street cred, all this stuff. And like, listen, we want her to help us turn our grow into a good manufacturing process grow so that we have pharmaceutical level products. We think she can help us. So that was how I got into the industry, was because somebody had contacted me and asked me. And then I realized, I have so many skills I can bring forward. How do you think we built the EDC and the ePro so quickly? While everybody was complaining about COVID, we were working. I was working on 2 FDA studies in COVID with the White House and Fauci and all these guys last March. I've been working on COVID all along this entire time, very quietly, just trying to figure out what we could do to help patients, because at the end of the day, that's my vision, my value system is to help others, because that was what was modeled to me when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like last year was a perfect time to go all in on anything. And a weird time like that, you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's great on your part too. So what was it? Was that aha moment that led you going from traditional pharmaceuticals into CBD?
Mm-hmm. It kind of was. It was like, oh, you know what? I can do this. And then it was the internal thing that I had to work through, which was the stigma. Even with CBD 5 years ago, it was not popular, to be in that space. And so I had to ascertain for myself if I felt as though I could stand in my own conviction and back this as a medicinal product, or was it not time for me? And when I got into this, I agreed, obviously, in myself, because I'm my boss, my own boss. I don't report to anybody. Thankfully, I don't have to deal with partners or anything. It's my companies, I did get flack from my ex-husband when I got into the space because I took a pay cut. I took a big pay cut, and I mean big. I still have people that owe me money from 4 years ago that are in Israel that think that they don't have to abide by a contract. Why do you have contracts? So it was a taboo industry for me to get into it, but also, just kind of navigating myself through it and understanding how to communicate effectively with these people who don't understand clinical research. Because when we talk, people in my space in clinical research, it sounds like alphabet soup, ICF, CFR, GCP, GMP, it's alphabet soup.
Because I think one problem too that's faced in the hemp industry is that there are people starting their own companies and they're trying to take shortcuts, not going through the proper testing to put out the best quality products. Like it would be like, hey, why'd you give this to other people if you wouldn't do it yourself?
Exactly. But I mean, people selling to gas stations. What?
Yeah.
What? This is a medicine. This isn't. What are you doing? You can't do that. Like, would you put Lyrica at the grocery store? Lyrica at a gas station? Lyrica is for diabetic neuropathy patients. No, that you don't get that at a gas station. So
No.
what are you doing this? Because you're just making it worse. You're muttering the waters for us all.
Oh yeah, it's like that in gas station sushi.
Right. That's disgusting. Like, we're at Walmart. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but who would buy sushi at Walmart? That they're not known for sushi, right? They're known for all these other things, but not sushi. It's just like a CRO, right? My company has multiple service offerings, right? We can do drug safety, we could do medical monitoring, all these things. And what we don't do is regulatory, and we don't do the technology aspect. So we have partners, you know, Spectral, the sister company, is the tech side, but I have a partner that handles our regulatory stuff because we're not good at everything, right? So we do what we're good at, and that's what we stay focused on. And so that's kind of what it is with the CBD space, is that, you know, you're just throwing stuff out there like spaghetti on the wall to see if it's going to stick. You can't do that. People are getting harmed. You know, there's all this stuff now starting to come out in the press with people doing things that's not appropriate. Our patches that we make at Spectral, we did an independent study to show whether or not our patch, amongst 13 others, will actually dispense medicine for 24 hours transdermally. Ours does do that. I'm embarrassed to tell you, out of all the others, there are only 3 others. And I released a white paper, so this isn't confidential. I'm happy to share it with you, Henry, after the show so you can read it. But we did an absorption study, an efficacy study, as far as how it comes out of the patch appropriately. And there were some high league brands in there that are selling their patches for an exorbitant amount of money. And what I like to say is, you might as well get a piece of Scotch tape and some aromatherapy spray and just do that, because that's about as effective as these patches. And that's a disgrace.
Oh, yeah. I know you met another problem too, that's happening in hemp too, is some people are taking other COAs and then like rewriting it as their name too. So like, way to detect that.
Oh yeah, it's like certificates, right? People who pretend that they've went to Harvard and they didn't. And they make their, you know, they have printed certificates that says they're an MD or whatever. It's the same kind of nonsense that's going on. If you have all this energy and time to work it illegally, why can't you just put that energy and time into doing things the right way? And if you're not going to do things the right way, get out, because you're making it worse for people like us.
Yeah. And what, going back on the business side of things too, what was the toughest thing you went through when you first opened the brands?
As far as, what do you mean when open the brand? Because I have a brand. I am Christina DiArcangelo. Oh, so Affinity Bio was already functioning before I got into the cannabis space. So luckily, because I was already known in the biotech pharmaceutical industry, very well known globally, I was doing sourcing, not offshoring. There's a difference between offshoring and sourcing. I was outsourcing studies in China, drug development, back in 2006, before anybody was. So I've been, you know, doing notable work over my entire career. I was the youngest outsourcing head in the world in my early 30s, and I'm a woman. So I already kind of had myself established in the space. It was just moving and opening up a page on my website that was specific to cannabis and CBD research, that was segregated away from the traditional side, because I straddle the fence. So we don't actively solicit, and I'm not trying to sound cocky, but it's just what I've decided for the company. I don't actively solicit traditional pharma work anymore. I don't. I haven't for years, actually. Since I actually got into the space, I wound down my traditional work and then focused the past 5 years doing this and building the tech platform, pushing forward in the advocacy space, because from an advocacy space, I couldn't work out of the closet until about 3 years ago. So here I was advocating for these patients underground, so to speak, because the IRS had sent out a statement that even if you weren't plant touching, which the nonprofit is an advocacy firm, we don't touch patients. We make recommendations for products if asked, but which makes sense because of my research background. You know, I'm researching a lot of these, or now formulating, you know, through Spectral, which is Avum is our commercial brand. It's not even Spectral. We have commercial companies that are separate from the research side for purposes that make sense. You know, you want to keep that stuff all separate. But it was just, I had to take a lot of nonsense from traditional friends, meaning non-cannabis friends. But I also took, sorry, my watch thinks I'm talking to the bot and it fires on. So I took a lot of flack, you know, from people like, what are you, a bong smoker now? What are you doing? And I became a patient in 18. And luckily, you know, we're in Pennsylvania, we have a fantastic program, but in 18, I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune diseases. And so the first one, I started taking CBG, CBD, CBN, and terps tincture under my tongue. And then when the pain kept getting worse and worse and worse, in about October, I got my card and started taking RSO at night because I needed something for the inflammation. So, and then like 3 weeks later, I found out I had the second auto. So I had to change a lot of things, you know, CBD and THC, et cetera. That's not your magic bullet. Even though Standard Farms has that great terp syringe called Magic Bullet, I love it, but it's not the end all be all. There's a lot of things you have to do from a patient standpoint to get yourself right. It will help you, and it'll help you, I feel, in my opinion, get yourself right. It'll help you, but you have to do other things with your eating, your exercise, your mindfulness. All of that plays into whether or not you're going to do better as a patient, in my opinion.
Ah, got it. Is there anything you would do differently if you had to start over from day one?
I would be more patient.
Oh,
I
interesting.
wasn't very patient. I wasn't very patient. I swung in hard, fast. You know, the fire was on. I didn't care. You know, but I wasn't very patient with myself.
Yeah.
Because I know what my abilities are, you know, and I learned so much. I mean, I got into the space and here I am, you know, years later, and I'm formulating now. Like, did I ever think that I would be forming? I never, ever in my wildest dreams, when I first got into biotech pharmaceuticals, thought that I'd be over here doing this, nor would I have thought that I'd have an advocacy firm that advocates for patients, because when you do research, you can't talk to the patients because of HIPAA. So it was always something that I would be sad about, because here, you know, I worked on Remicade, which is one of Johnson & Johnson's blockbusters. It has a black list. So that's why I said Blackbuster. I meant Blockbuster, but it has a black, it's on the blacklist. They have black box warnings. But anyway, I never thought that I would be here today, you know, in the space that I've been in, and that, you know, being recognized for my efforts of being a woman leader in cannabis. You know, I took it by the teeth, I guess, or bull by the horns, whatever you want to say. And I just kept going. And every time I got knocked down, people didn't want to pay their bills, nonsense, people saying things to me about my involvement in cannabis and, you know, stuff. I didn't care. I just kept going, because at the end of the day, I'm here to help people. And, you know, my son got diagnosed last year with 5 developmental disorders, picked up another one this year. The one that he picked up this year is a pretty substantial one, DMDD, which for the viewers out there, most viewers understand major depressive disorder. So it's like that for children, DMDD. So major depressive disorders for our listeners today, our viewers, is the endpoint for that is suicide. So and I'm actually working with a client right now that has multiple MDD studies, and that's my only traditional client. That's it. That's the only one I keep.
Oh, wow.
So you understand why, because it's personal to me. And that's one of the things that I take pride in, is that I decide what I do because of the investment I have in patients based on multitudes of therapeutic areas due to experiences I've had early on as a kid, but losing my dad, you know, at 62 and 15, he was the light of my life. And now my son has problems, right? So, and he's my number one now. You know, my dad was my number one, my son was number 2. And you notice I was never number 1. Now I'm number 1, my son is number 2, because if I don't make myself number 1 from a patient standpoint, what good am I? I am nothing.
Oh, wow. it's like you have a really unique take on the CBD space. So if somebody was to find your business and three others just like yours, like why'd you suggest they give you a try first?
Yeah. That's what I would say. Like whenever people ask me, how can we get a hold of you? Like, where's the best place to find you? Because I have all these companies, Affinity Bio, Affinity Patient Advocacy. I have a biotech firm. I have Spectral Analytics, Precision Tele-Monitoring. I'm the CEO for. I have my brand. What I normally tell people is just put ChristinaDiArcangelo.com in, and my brand comes up. And that talks about everything I do as a human. Because at the end of the day, if you can't connect with the human that's telling you, hey, this kind of works, or I've observed this, or I've done a research study on this, if you can't connect with them, what good am I? You know, that was one of the reasons why I launched my brand, was because I knew that people are now looking at me to help guide. You know, I'm working on a federal bill at the Hill with a group of very, 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 you know, researchers, doctors. I'm the only non-doctor on this team. We're working on a Fed bill so I can do research without handcuffs on.
Oh.
Because right now I have handcuffs on. I can't move my drug if I'm doing a study that a grower says, for example, in Pennsylvania produces. I can't move that drug to go to Ohio without a DEA license. In clinical trial, I can move my drug everywhere, right? If I'm working on, I don't know, this depression study, we can move the drug throughout the 50 states, no problem. I don't have to have a DEA license. But in the world of clinical studies, and if you're working in cannabis as a Schedule I, you have to have a DEA license to move that drug. Even though I'm doing a protocol study through a central IRB that's like FDA light, I can't move that drug. So imagine how hard it is to do clinical research like what I normally do. I've had to figure out ways to get around it legally, you know, applying for DEA licenses to move drug. Then in traditional pharma, you just move. It just gets shipped, airway bill, boop, boop, it's there.
Oh, wow. And what's number one way you currently get new patients?
How do I get new patients? Okay, so we're very blessed. People have been coming to us in droves. And I think it's because I'm so active in the community. You know, I just launched my own podcast. So Henry, I'd like to have you on sometime as well as one of my guests. Because no, seriously, because I want to talk about what you're doing, what drives you. It's not about Christina DiArcangelo. When you're on my podcast, it's about you and what you bring to the table and what you want to talk about to help you, you know? And I'm very picky, obviously, about who I bring on because I have to align myself with good people. You know, over the past 5 years, that's been very trying. I'm part of this group called the Inner Circle. Mm-hmm. And most people don't even know what the Inner Circle is because it's kind of riding under the radar. But soon, there's going to be a trailer that comes out for my participation in the Inner Circle, where what we do is we have multiple CBD professionals from real estate to product development to me, the unicorn, all these weird things I do. And then, you know, say marketing, technology, like with devices, inhalation type things, say production for like podcasts and documentary production. So we have all these wonderful people that have been vetted. So the reason why we call it the Inner Circle is that this is a place where we come together as leaders and we try to figure out ways to improve, but also partner because they're trusted. Because in this space, come on, Henry, you know, there's just a lot of hokey pokey stuff that goes on, right? Yeah. And so you can't trust a lot of people. I know I've learned very, and I mean, very valuable lessons about people that I thought were cool, that I thought that could do whatever they said they could, and they ended up not, because the back door isn't so prevalent in this space. In traditional pharma and biotech and everything, we've got a big back door. And because I've been doing it so long, I'll run across losers from 10 years ago that I'm like, oh, that one was terrible. We fired, this CRA fell in a ditch and had a breakdown. It was terrible. So there's this big back door. But in cannabis, there's not that big back door. The door is like, eek.
It's
And so
there's a low barrier to entry to get in. That's what it is.
well, I would say there's ways that people get in that they're not qualified to be, right? So they pretend to be legit, right? Because you assume, that people say who they are, they really are. But like I had somebody, swear to God, somebody who worked in the cannabis space who came to me, said, I want a board seat on your nonprofit board. I want to help patients. Okay. That's my passion company. All my companies are passion to me, but that one, because I lost my dad and I've lost so many people, and I've helped along the way. I can't even tell you how many people, we'll be alive 6 years. This is our 6-year anniversary this October. We're going to have a big event, October 13th. And then 15th will be our big shebang where we're giving out awards for people in cannabis that deserve them based on certain categories. But this person came to us and said, I want to be on the board. We said, okay. And I was getting ready for this big fundraiser. I just alluded to you because we do this yearly. And she, in the background, developed a website with a different domain, but close enough to mine, where she was going to divert funds from my nonprofit to her through her website because it looked like mine.
Oh, wow.
We found out about it, thank God, because I have a tech company. So my guys are always on the back end looking at everything, right? So they found it, told one of my board members. My board member called me at 4 a.m. and said, I have to tell you something. I need to sit down when I tell you this and don't scream because Christian's sleeping, my son. I said, okay. He was 6 at the time. No problem. I come into my office at 4 a.m. She says, type in the following email address or the web address, www. I type. All the stuff comes up. Me, my sponsors, my teams, my people I'm affiliated with, all these companies off my back. You were trying to steal from me. And then she stalked us. So she almost had criminal charges pressed by me. She was harassing my entire team. I had to tell my son he couldn't ride his bicycle outside because I was afraid with somebody like this who's volatile that she could take my kid, because the only thing that matters to me, which you can glean from, I think, is my son. Besides myself, my safety and welfare, my son. That's it. That's all I have. So I mean, and I had to increase my security at home. I mean, it was pretty serious, Henry. And you would not have, it was like that movie with that blonde lady that was doing crazy stuff. Like I can't remember the Basic Instinct, like crazy stuff. That's how this lady was. You didn't know that she would be this type of honest to God, you wouldn't know this because I've got a good gut instinct. I've been doing business for years. Why do you think I've been so successful? As I know go, no-go decisions. This lady had us snowed like Snow White.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy to hear. And on the business side of things too, in the next 6 months to a year, where would you like to see Affinity Bio Partners?
Well, Affinity Bio Partners, God willing, we will never have to worry about business again because there's some big initiatives that we're getting ready to plow forward with. One is a 510 application for a client that's doing an inhalation device that's both in traditional and then obviously in CBD and cannabis. We're pumping, and the nutraceutical space. So we would handle all of their studies so that they can get the 510K nod from the FDA, which is one of my sweet spots. Spectral is getting ready, God willing, we're getting ready to close some big funding. So Spectral is not going to build out a clinical research team. Why would we do that? We have Affinity Bio Partners. We outsource at Spectral. That's what the pharmaceutical industry does. They outsource. They don't build up drones and huge teams. Not at all, because it costs money. So they outsource. They have lots of people, but they still outsource. So we'll be doing all of their work. And there's a bunch of other clients that I've been talking to. Thank God, COVID clients. I'm still working on the COVID study for Escozine. That's out there. It's public, so I can say that. There's a press release that just came out. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago where I was quoted. And so we're doing a lot with that client who's going to be, you know, if you read the articles, you can see that they're oncology focused. So the hat turns, and that's a nutraceutical product. So, you know, working on that. So we have a lot of stuff that we're working on. And then with Spectral, the fact that we can do customized transdermal patches based on the patient's needs is game changing. We are going to give the power back to the patients. The patients will be able to see everything that's going on with them right now. Medical cannabis patients can't see everything right now because there's not a portal that they could see everything, right? And the doctors don't talk to the patients. So if they have a GI issue, gastrointestinal issue, and they go to their GI doc, the cannabis doc doesn't know that they went to the GI doc. They have no idea. So what we're trying to do, the technology is already there. So now we're just going to start pumping the patients in. And so that means, Henry, that we'll have the most data in the entire world in CBD cannabis, because we're going to be seeing it all. And we're going to be helping patients feel better and working with other companies. We have another biotech company that's using the EDC ePro right now. We have another company who's taking all of her products, she has edibles, and turning them into transdermal patches through us with her formula. And then we'll start monitoring her gummy clients, her patch clients, everything will run through Spectral. We do those questionnaires for her.
Yeah. You can take the edible.
And that be able to ask patients questions.
So you can take the edible somebody eats and you can
take the formulation. Yep.
That's absurd.
I can, yes. So if they're hooked into our Tele-Monitoring portal, I'll be able to see, you know, we can ask them, we can design it in ways that we can ask the patients, have you taken your edible? When was the last time you took it? Da, 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 da. But I'm also working on a watch with my tech team and my partner, where we're building out a watch that only costs $15, but the biometric data that we get from it goes into the cloud that the patients have. So right now, my Apple Watch, I'm the only person who sees the data besides Apple, right? My doctor doesn't see this. My doctor can't get access to it. But we are building a watch that we will sell to the patients for $15. That's it, $15. And it'll have noise, sleep, heart rate, blood pressure, eating, everything. And then remember, I have bots. I have the Cannabot, I have the Doctor Bot, they're AI bots. They can talk to the watch. So if someone, say you're in a traffic jam, right? We get in traffic jams, everybody does. We're sitting here, we're not moving, especially if you're down in the Philly area with the Schuylkill. It's terrible. You're sitting here, there's traffic everywhere, and your heart rate goes up because you're pissed, you know, and you got somewhere to be. And say your breathing starts to accelerate because your blood pressure has gone up, your heart rate's gone up. The bot can send a message to the watch telling you, take a breath. What are you doing? Are you doing something stressful? What's going on? When's the last time you've eaten? Do you need a snack? Like, do you need to take a lozenger? Because, and I'm not saying a THC lozenger, I'm saying a CBD lozenger. Or do you need to take a puff out of your inhaler? Because we'll have all this stuff available for these patients, and see how we're keeping them consistent and we're watching over them. Like my last name, the Archangel. That's all we're trying to do.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another thing too, what would you say the biggest challenge you're facing right now for Affinity Bio Partners is?
You got a lot of jump offs. You got a lot of people that are saying, oh, you know, I can do this, I understand, da, 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 and they don't, because they didn't take the time to learn. This industry is very tricky. This is nothing like anything I've ever worked in before. As a matter of fact, I'm taking one of our immune boost lozengers. So it's our immune formula that we had turned into a lozenger. There's no THC, it's terpenes, CBD, and CBDC. Ooh. I have a party on Saturday. It's 50 milligrams. I have a party on Saturday for my brand, my anniversary. And we're going to be giving these out at the party. So I figured I'd try it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's really, really awesome to hear.
Thank
'Cause, like,
you.
that's like one thing too, like you mentioned too, like this industry is in its infancy, so like there's still a lot of kinks to be worked out.
And I think too, we need to come together and do a better job. Like
Yeah.
stop fighting. Who's got the better product, this, that, the other. No, it shouldn't be about that. It should be about educating, putting out products that are consistent, that can be truly tested and measured with a COA. We capture the data. In my opinion, those are the three things we need to do as an industry.
Yep.
Education comes from the data capture, right? So
Yep.
see how they kind of go together. And then you have to have a sustainable product that you can repeat time and time again. It's always the same.
That's why I started the group.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to enter the space?
You really have to find a good mentor. I'm serious. Because if you align yourself with the wrong person, you'll learn all the wrong things to do, right? So for me, I had to really vet people, like people that I thought would be mentors for me. Some of them are still not in the squad anymore, that I consider as mentors, because they've done things that I've watched and I was like, oh my God, that's not cool. So you've got to identify amazing mentors. That's number one, right? I'm happy to mentor people, honest to God. Like I've been mentoring people. I think you could probably tell that by the way I explain things. I try not to use words that are up here because who the hell is up there?
Oh yeah.
You're here with me. I got to stay here with you. So finding a good mentor is number one. Number two, really read the clinical research. Now, there's a very easy place that you can go on as a patient or otherwise. That's called clinicaltrials.gov. Now, whenever I do studies, a client comes to me and says, hey, I need to do a COVID study last March. What in the world did I know about COVID last March? I know about viruses. I worked on viruses, but COVID, holy cow. I worked on the flu, AstraZeneca's, but I don't know. So first place I go is clinicaltrials.gov. And clinicaltrials.gov is going to give you a listing of all clinical trials that have been registered. CBD, cannabis, everything, even observational, which is questionnaires. Like I was telling you, the ePro, that's a questionnaire. So you're able to really be able to see all the studies. So you can go in and you can start looking, reading. That's the best place to start because that is federally reviewed because that's a government website. So I know there's lots of, conspiracy theory stuff out there. I don't want to get into that. But if you can start there, you can learn a lot there. PubMed.com is where all of our journals are for clinical research, traditional and otherwise. That's another place. Following my Affinity Bio Partners or me on LinkedIn, my name, Christina DiArcangelo, you will find so much stuff because I share stuff all the time. And I'm here to be a resource. If there's a patient or somebody that has a question that I can answer, I will. If I cannot, I'll help find somebody that can. Like if they need to talk to Dr. Donner, say, or somebody like that, because I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a person that works in clinical research.
Oh, of course. That's all great advice. And I think we can have a part two as well, too, with all your depth of knowledge. With the know-how.
I would love that.
Yep. So what's the best way somebody can contact you as well, too, if they have any questions about pharmacy, pharmaceutical, CBD? Website, right?
Yep. I would say just have them contact, my ChristinaDiArcangelo.com has a way to email me directly. If they have LinkedIn, like, the LinkedIn, the professional networking,
yep.
I have tons of even patients that find me on LinkedIn. So you can always go ahead and send me a LinkedIn request. I try to tell people don't contact me on Facebook because my teams have access to my Facebook. And so if you want to get a hold of me, then you go through LinkedIn because that's me that answers those.
Yeah.
Not that they would ever say anything, you know what I mean? My people are my people, I love them. But if you really want me, I would say ChristinaDiArcangelo.com or LinkedIn. Just refrain from, because you can imagine the weirdo messages I get on my DMs and Instagram and then Facebook, like weird stuff.
Well, we met through Facebook.
But you were a regular person. Like I could tell that you were, because I'll tell you, Henry, I have right now in my friend box,
Yep.
I have like 700 people that have friend requested me. So I have to go through, and it takes a lot of time. I have to go through and look at every single profile before I accept them. Because are they pirates? Are they trying to steal information from me? Because listen, I'm butting up against pharma with what I do, right? I'm, you know, I'm not going to have everybody love me at certain times of my career. I understand that, and that's okay.
Well, yeah, people don't like different.
Change.
They don't like it.
Right. Right.
Just the way it is.
That's absolutely right. And I would love to come back on again another time. And I want to invite you as well, Henry. Once I could get through, you know, our events this Saturday, I've got some JV stuff I have to do for Spectral over the next couple of weeks. So I've got to pause my recording for a little bit just because I've recorded enough that I have enough shows to pump, you know, because I've got to do my storyboard. I have to start my storyboard for my documentary this weekend after the party. So, you know, it's a little crazy and hectic, but I'm excited by all this stuff because I really want to help people feel better. That's what I'm here to do. And, you know, all the long hauler patients I've been helping through APA who, you know, some were suicidal when they came to us and now they're not. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Of course. So, yeah, like I say, you're always welcome back on. And
thank you.
Definitely look forward to hearing more developments with your ventures.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. And if there's anything I can ever do, if you, Henry, ever have somebody that you come across that you think, hey, I think DR could help, you know, with this, please don't be shy. You know, like I'm happy to help where I can. Like I said, if I can't help, we'll try and find a resource because at the end of the day, I'm a patient advocate, right?
Yep.
You know, I'm a patient, I'm an advocate, I'm a researcher, I'm a mom. And so I'll tell you, being a mom, Henry, as much as, you know, back in the day, I never thought I was going to have kids because my career was my child.
Yeah.
When I decided to have a kid and it was such a blessing, it's helped me so tremendously, Henry, on how I interact with people because I think about things like a trifecta, the mom, the advocate, and the researcher. Before, I was just a researcher and an advocate before I had a kid. But having the kid, especially a child who has developmental issues, I've learned so much from him, you know? And so it really, I feel like most people would feel like they want to pity me, like, oh, she's a single mom, she has a kid with developmental disorder, she's a patient, like, oh my God. No, I don't want pity. I look at it as all positives. You know, I have bad days just like everybody else. I'm just like everybody else. We are the same, you know?
Oh, of course, yeah. But yeah, like we definitely have more to discuss later on. But yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Henry. I appreciate you.
Yep, you too.
Have a great day.
Bye.